Shut up and sit down.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the most epically overused word in cycling is epic. It seems that anything and everything is epic these days.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I like to ride my bike.
I'd like to introduce you to a podcast with a lot of charm, talent, and wit. Unfortunately, I don't have that option, so instead, you are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von During. Tip of the day: a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That said, you know what you've got to do, so go get her done.
I got fancy little streamers coming out of my handlebars.
I got carts in my spokes that make sounds as it flies the cars.
I got lights all around and reflectors in the back.
I basket on the front that are really useful rack.
But I hate cyclists, bike riders, people who ride bicycles.
Does someone need a hug?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys are looking good, and particularly good, looking good today. I mean, I don't know. You guys seem to look good every week.
Hi, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von During. I'm here with Lance friggin' Hepler.
Lance friggin' Hepler. I'm here. Here we go.
You're here? All of you here?
I'm mostly here. I woke up with like a swollen eye this morning, and I have no idea why. It's just like one of those things that, like, you're just getting older and you wake up and your knee hurts and you don't know why.
Right.
My eye is swollen. There's no reason for it.
Didn't you get stung by a bee? No, it was in the back of your head, though.
I got stung by a bee on my back of my neck at short track race.
Yeah. Good times. Anyway. Tis right. Oh, hold on a second. Why is it not playing? Oh, no.
It is playing.
I can't hear it.
I can hear it.
Oh, you can? All right. Well,
yeah.
Maybe I got to stop pushing buttons over here. Anyway, tis right. Sir Ian Gibson.
Hey.
You got to turn it down.
Hi, Gibbo here. Is it too loud?
It's really loud.
I can't hear anything. All right. Gibbo, how are you?
Yeah, I woke up too with regular 60-year-old guy stuff going on, I guess. My knee hurts. My back hurts.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Hey, I got a question. Where's that Matt Legrand guy?
Matt is busy. He had like swim championship something and something. I don't know. He was busy. He couldn't make it.
Did we get a JVD introduction? Didn't you? Did I miss that in the past? Did you introduce yourself?
He doesn't. He just says, "This is Jake Von During with the Dial Podcast. I'm here with." It's as lame as they come.
Yep, they're lame because I'm lame.
They come lamer.
Hey, let's do some backpedaling. Ian, why don't you kick us off? You did all kinds of racing last week and training and hard stuff, right?
No. I'm starting to forget what it's like to race bikes. I did, shootout a couple of weekends ago, I guess. That's close to racing bikes.
Uh-huh.
Good fun, anyway. We went down on a road trip to Southern Oregon coast, which was great. It was like 100 and God knows what degrees up here in the shade.
Yeah, it was hot.
Last week, and it was high. It was 57 down on the Oregon coast, and sunny and calm and just beautiful.
It was that much cooler?
Yep, 57 degrees and sunny.
You were probably down there with the rest of the Pacific Northwest. Well, minus me and Lance.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't that crowded. The Oregon coastline, the beaches are never crowded. I took my bike, my gravel bike, and just rode some new terrain, which I feel like I really need right now. I'm just losing motivation doing the same old stuff every week. So anyway, I did that. We got back Friday this last weekend. I was out in Lyle, Washington, across the river, with my good friend Dickie Mallison and his entourage. And we had a great day playing bikes in the gravel. So that was fun.
Sweet.
And then, that's about all I have to say about that.
Yep, you did a little bike racing.
I did. I did the short track race, mountain bike short track race, a couple days ago. Little different this week. It wasn't nearly as hot, and they actually had a decent start stretch. So there was actually a hole shot that you could kind of go for, which made it kind of fun. It spread the race out a little bit better than what we ended up with last week. But I raced the Cat 250 plus field, and
what's the turnout like there? Is it a lot of people there?
They're having like 250 or something like that, 200, something like that. So,
which is low in comparison to
Yes.
when it used to be run by Chris Schomp. A completely different vibe, but you kudos to Kevin Blair for bringing that back. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, and he's going to figure it out. And he wasn't the one running those before, so this is kind of a new venture for him. And he's put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this, and a lot of money too. So
they've spent a ton of money building a course through the trees where there was no course before, taking out trees, putting in dirt berms, bringing in a whole, truckloads and truckloads of dirt, and then patting it down and trying to, it's been a whole labor for him to create this race venue that's also at PIR when we're not inside the motor racetrack.
Yeah. So typically it starts in June. It's like the first Monday of June is when it used to start in the past. And typically in the Pacific Northwest, the weather's a lot more compliant then. And then you go through all of June and all of July, and you'll have a couple hot days in there. But for all intents and purposes, the weather's usually pretty good, and the days are long, and it just works out really well. This go-around, he started in July and is going to go all the way through August.
Correct.
There's a couple things there that I think that are going to be a little bit problematic. One, the weather, and that's been a big issue for the first couple of weeks. It's been triple digits for you guys.
The first week was 105. This week it was 85.
So. Oh, was it that? I thought it was. No, wait, it was Tuesday that it got really hot.
Tuesday
it was,
hot
but
again.
it was still hot.
Yeah.
But also this time of year, like people are all going on like camping trips and vacations and all this stuff, and that happens a lot in August, and that's why a lot of promoters don't touch August. Is one, it's hot, and two, people are gone doing stuff. So.
The cool thing was huge kids field.
Yeah.
There was a ton of kids and juniors that came out to race.
Love that.
Yes, which was great, which was super cool to watch. Even our team had 8 or something juniors out there racing, which was really exciting. Yeah. So it was a good time.
So is this track like are these all permanent features now that he'll be able to use in subsequent years? So
he can use. He's been given control of one section of woods of the PIR property.
Nice.
For whatever he wants from here on out, because it won't conflict with anything else that goes on at PIR.
Yeah.
Because we have our own parking, our own venue area and whatnot. So he can run cyclocross races there, mountain bike short track races there. And so he's just exploring.
Is that, I'm sure some of the features of that track will show up in the Trophy Cup that comes up in
Trophy
September,
Cup is
right?
different and a different promoter.
Oh.
So
that's a good question. Are they going to run Trophy Cup in the same area?
No, they're not. As far as I know, Trophy Cup is still happening inside the track. So where it always has, where you cross over the actual IndyCar track. So, but that's not a definite as of right now. There's a bunch of conflict going on between the owners of PIR and our bicycle race
here's
promoters.
the thing. There are no owners of PIR. That is a public park, but there's people that kind of have a control over it that maybe because they're the ones that bring the most financial gains to the city to the table.
Yeah.
And it's the motocross people and then the people that race cars, and they're going to get first, shot over everything. And from what I hear, the gentleman who runs the motocross part of it does not like the cycling community being on there at all, and it's been a little bit of a power struggle. So,
so we haven't had a race on any part of the motocross track for several years because of that power struggle.
And that used to be so much fun.
Yes,
it was a blast. So you had such a mix. Like you've got some open field stuff. You've got some like kind of not wooded, but like kind of back in the middle of nowhere, fun little stuff and punchy little ups and downs. And then you came back on and you're racing on the motocross track, which was a blast. I mean, you're rolling over a whoop section, you're tabletops and doubles, and you're just having a blast.
Flying over your handlebars, as I recall.
There was some of that
messing
happening
up
as well.
your shoulder. Yes, I remember that. Good times.
But
so there's still some conflict between the promoters and whatnot. So the fact that Kevin Blair was able to get a section of the course that he could do with what he wants is kind of a win for us. It's not the same as being inside the track. But at least we have a space that we can use. He can use whenever he wants, basically.
Yeah. So what features, what additions, what could he add to this event to make it even better to attract more people?
There's no elevation at that location, so you're not climbing really anything. So basically, there's a slough that goes through the area. So when it rains, there's some field areas that are going to be nasty, muddy. So that will make it interesting. He has cut paths through the trees, put in bermed corners in some areas, put some whooped features in some areas. But he can extend even further in a different direction. So there's more things that could happen. They had to build bridges over like the slough in like 3 different spots.
Sure.
So
now the old course, there wasn't a lot of elevation gain, but there was like changing, like, I don't know, you'd have to climb up a little thing that was maybe 10 or 15 feet high. That was, I don't know, just some bump of dirt that used to be there. You're going over the motocross track, and some of those jumps are quite huge, and you had to carry a little bit of momentum or hit him with a little bit of power. Do you think it would behoove him to try and add some dirt to add some varying elevation?
It's possible. There's really only one bumpish area where you have to and it's literally only like 8 feet high, you know? So that's maybe there's 2 like that. So he could build some other areas. Yeah. But he ran out of money too.
Sure.
He could only do so much this
say,
year.
So he made a big investment there, right? In money and in his time.
I think he spent like 20 grand.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, that's encouraging.
And that's with volunteer
for
labor.
Yeah.
So he brought in a lot of stuff to just to build the course, which is great. I mean, kudos to him.
Well, it's encouraging for the cycling, the racing community, right? So this is going to be a multi-season series. It's not a one-off thing.
Correct.
With that kind of investment. That's great.
And the vibe at the race, everybody's so happy to have weeknight short track racing back, because we haven't had it for so many years.
Yeah.
And we have a whole 6-race series too, which is fantastic. So it's kudos to him.
I think one thing that they still need to probably consider bringing in would be a voice. I mean, we lost Luciano.
Yes.
And that sucks. But I think that having a defining voice that can get on the PA and play some music that appeals to everybody and kind of keep that vibe going would be super cool.
One thing that the venue where we're using lacks at the moment is a good viewing point for a lot of the course. It's not super spectator friendly or team tent friendly because most of the course is in the trees and out in a field.
Can that be changed though?
It probably can
with time.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to figure out where that space could be because the access point to where we start and where registration isn't really a good spectating point. So anyway,
good times.
Super glad that series is back. But
hats off.
Yeah.
What else you been doing?
I rode my bike otherwise. I'm still training. I'm trying to prep for this last mountain bike race of the series, which is next weekend. So I'm still doing interval sessions and some longer rides to make sure I have some pop for that last race.
I think that is another, what you were talking about, having these late season races, August is still peak of the summer. But by this time, there's people like us that have been training since November and kind of wanting to back off a little bit and still be doing intervals and trying to maintain your peak fitness. 6 months into this is a challenge, right?
Yeah, I had to take a break so that I could ramp back up because I did so much work so early, got through all the other mountain bike races, did several gravel races, did Unbound. Once Unbound was over, I was like, okay, I need 2 weeks of just riding for pleasure. And then I still went and did Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder, which was... I did no prep for that at all. It was just like show up in whatever legs I have.
Training camp part 2.
Yes. And so after that, without any structured work I hadn't done in 3.5 weeks, I was ready to do some structured stuff. So that was good. So I'm trying to gear up for that. So, but other than that, I rode a lot. Jake and I did a couple rides together, which was fantastic. Man, this last Tuesday we did our Tuesday night gravel ride was freaking fire.
I didn't think anybody was going to show up because it was hot. That was the day that it hit. We were.
It was
close.
98
Yeah,
or
it was pretty close
95
to-
when we started.
Yeah, triple digits, close to it.
And if you have a couple new people that show up that haven't done the ride before and they've heard all these rumors about how hard it can be, and that's what happened is we had a new face there, and he just freaking ripped our legs off in a couple spots. And so when that happens, everybody's trying to go and hang. And actually, Jake hung better this week than I did. So Jake is coming around.
Jake's coming back.
So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
But
it's kind of funny. He did come out, especially when we got up on the dike. He came out like guns a-blazing. I was like, "Holy crap! Here we go again!" I'm having like flashbacks to like the couple weeks prior when I was trying to hold Paul's wheel, and like I'm sitting fifth wheel trying to put out like 400 plus watts just to stay in the line. I'm like,
I didn't stay in the line.
Paul ate his Wheaties that day, and I'm like, all right, I got to stay close, got to stay attached. I know I'm feeling a little bit stronger, and then he slowly started to peter off a little bit, and then there was another counter attack, and I was able to jump on that wheel, and we got separation. So I was like, woohoo! So
Yeah.
Anyway.
It was pretty crazy. So good times. That's it for me.
Cool. I did some bike riding last week, boys. Guess what?
Did you break 10 hours?
I went over 10 hours. 10 hours and 15 minutes. Not too shabby.
Oh, wow.
So it's been just a slow, steady ascent getting up to that point. Thought I was going to get there the week prior, but weather kind of screwed things up like I mentioned before. But last week I was able to get it in, and the numbers are looking better. So heart rate's coming down, power numbers are coming up, body weight's coming down still, which is pretty cool. I'm finally back into the hundreds, which is kind of cool, of pounds, or not hundreds, in sub 200.
You're under 200 pounds.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that this weekend, based on how things have been going, my trajectory, I should be probably about 10 pounds away from like my peak, like weight for where I like to be, where I'm usually the strongest. So that'll be good. Keep cranking on that. So
freaking punish us now on every ride.
Yeah.
It's just happening.
I still got to
already.
stay healthy. I'll get into that in just a second. But we did the flogging ride last week, which was a lot of fun. We've got like an A, a B, a C, and a D group, and so I don't even think we had D's last week because it was hot. And then we sent out all the C's, which was fine. And there was a decent little group of that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do the C group this week. I'm going to do the B group. I think I've got enough horsepower to be able to stay with them. And if nothing else, I'll just, work my butt off to get to the school as quickly as possible and hang on for the second half of the ride. And I was able to make that happen. And it ended up being myself and Lance and our good friend Alan Plank that we broke away from the B group.
Yeah.
So, and then for whatever reason, the A group, which is supposed to start 5 minutes behind us, ended up leaving. Were you a part of the A group? Did you leave
No,
the base? Okay,
I left with the B
Bs.
group.
They're supposed to leave 5 minutes. They waited about 30 seconds.
Yes,
and so
they
the
just
next thing you know, they're
started
like,
right
if
away.
they're riding with us, I'm like, hey, what's going on in here? So things kind of got a little mixed up. But anyway, long story short, we were able to break away, and that was pretty cool to be able to hold that and stay with you guys all the way up. And then I was able to stay with the lead group heading back too. So pretty stoked on that. Kind of fun to see your fitness come back around.
And it's coming around. What do you think? It's like surprisingly quick how much it's coming around, right? It's
sort of. I mean,
that power is in those legs, man. It's just it's just there. It just has to
Well,
be like developed a little bit.
We
for
went out a couple of
Jake.
weekends ago, right, on this battleground loop, and you could see you were kind of taking it easy, apart from busting your
Broken,
cleats,
yeah.
sprinting. But there was already some ominous signs that Jake was coming back, and I looked at Lance and I'm like, yeah, this is a case of careful what you wish for, right? Because
That's right.
Jake's going to be punishing you.
Well,
before long.
I have a plan and I'm sticking to it. I've been doing a good job. Like going out on doing a zone 2 ride, and then Lance has a different definition of zone 2 and not chasing that. I think, that's coming back to pay dividends, and it's helping me build up my base fitness. And this past weekend, I was really close to being able to go with Lance. You went and did a large mountain ride for 70 miles or something like that. And Lance
It's
is
like 4 hours, 70 miles,
and
like 6,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah, and I had soccer tournament stuff and Uber dad stuff to do, and I just couldn't make it work. But I really wanted to go do that. But I'm like, it's probably better that I don't anyway, because I know that as soon as Lance and I get together, there's always like a little like, oh, you're going to go that fast, I'll go that fast too. Or hey, let's stop ahead, son, I'm going to go chase you up to that. Or like, hey, I'm going to get to the top of this climb before you. And then all of a sudden the zone 2 becomes more of like a let's go thrash each other up stuff. So anyway, I went out and did a good 50 mile. It was 52 miles, and I was like pleasantly surprised. Like I was kind of like using my heart rate as like a metric of like, all right, where's my zone 2 at? Because I haven't done an FTP test in a while. And I did this whole 52-mile ride, got back, and like my normalized power was higher than I thought it was going to be. My heart rate was lower than it was going to be. And my average speed was 20 miles an hour. I'm like, all right, I'll take that for 52 miles. That's pretty good. And it's just slowly coming around. And if I can stick to this, I know that I'll get my fitness back if I don't hurt myself.
Yeah, I mean, that's motivating for all of us. It's good to see that your basic power, the aerobic power that you've built up over the decades, over the years, didn't drop down to zero.
Yeah.
You lost a little bit of your high power, maybe your threshold. But,
a little bit.
Well, but I mean,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's encouraging that you didn't let everything go. You didn't say, okay, now I've got this issue in my hip, so I'm just gonna give up on it.
Yeah. Well, another funny thing, and I've shared this with Lance a few times, and I don't put a lot of stock into it, but it's kind of fun to watch at the same time, and it keeps you motivated to keep wanting to go out. But I have the Strava Premium, and if you go in there, it'll show you like your fitness score, where it thinks your fitness is at. And I was talking with our good friend Chris Hannell, and he's like, "Oh, you can kind of change the metrics in terms of like what it actually uses to come up with that number." I'm like, "No, I'm just going to leave it be." But and to be honest with you, I don't know exactly what it's. I should probably go look this up, but exactly what it's using. But I'm guessing it has something to do with volume and intensity. So you get a fitness score as to where you're at. And I know that like for me, whatever I was using to set up, and based on the amount of time that I could usually ride, it was probably somewhere around 80 points is like where I was at when I was like fit and doing well. And, it's, it's just a number, but that number fell all the way down to 1. When I started this whole process, I was at 1, and now I'm at like 42, and that's over the course of 5 or 6 weeks. That's pretty good. And like you look at just a massive spike going up.
Yeah,
so
it's similar to CTL, Training Peaks,
Correct.
chronic training load.
Yeah.
Right?
So anyway, it's kind of fun to watch that go up, and I'm just really trying to be mindful of all of the things. And hitting that 10 hours was a big thing for me. Like for me, like mentally, that was a good threshold to get over and say, all right, I was able to do that and not fall apart. The other big thing was doing that 62-mile ride that we did, that Battleground Loop. That gave me a lot of confidence, and I'm just going to keep building off of that and be careful. Yeah. However, the gravel ride that we did the other night, we were a little spicy in that, and I felt a little bit tight and woke up the next morning and I had a little bit of like soreness in the joint itself. So I'm like, all right, maybe just need to back it off, or maybe I need to stretch a little bit more, or maybe I need to do more foam rolling. Anyway, I gotta keep an eye on that, because if that slips off, then that could be problem times. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, it's been fun getting back on the bike, boys, and hopefully maybe soon. I don't know if I'll be able to pin on a number this year, but maybe soon I'll be able to get the fitness back and really start to plan for 2025.
And you can have a great bike ride out with your friends without smashing it every time.
Yeah.
It was refreshing actually Sunday when I went out with Dickie and all those people. Like once it started getting really spicy, the call went up just to slow the hell down for a little bit and take it all in. And it was kind of nice not to be out completely smashing it, although we did towards the end. But
because you can't help it.
It never happens with a dial cycling quotes training ride. It doesn't seem to.
Well, we did a lunch ride yesterday. It was a 2-hour lunch ride, and it was pretty.
That was calm, tame.
It was calm.
Everybody
tame.
mind their P's and Q's.
Yeah.
There's maybe one time where we went a little bit harder than we should, just going up lake. But other than that, I think everybody kept it pretty reeled in, and I think it just had to do with the cast of characters that was there. Like there was nobody to really like incite violence from Lance's legs,
right?
So he kept himself in check. So
I did. And
anyway, good man, Lance.
I'm trying.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about anything else? Hey, Matt, are you excited about any of this stuff? I mean,
cyclocross. I just finished the race and I was like,
talk about cyclocross.
My
Matt's excited for cyclocross season coming up.
Yes, I'm not good at this, and I thought I was going to be good.
Sorry, I thought that was a different drop. But Matt hates cyclocross, so cyclocross is coming though.
It is our race series. The registration is live.
Our gravel ride had some cyclocross-esque like features in it.
Yes, it did.
Jumping over trees,
and
riding in crazy thick sand on the beach. It was kind of crazy. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Let's. Are we doing this?
Here comes Champ Bailey, dropping cycling news on the Dial Podcast.
Yes,
Champ, you in the house?
Champ is here. We are like thick deep into the Tour de France. There's only 3 days left to go. This last week has been very exciting watching.
Yep.
These last 2 days have been days for the breakaway, which have been, it's given some other people some chances to get out there. So, it seems like, okay, Pogacar's won it. It seems like he's won it. There's a question mark whether Evenepoel or Vingegaard will take second and third or third and second.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the only question that's coming. And so we've got 2 huge days. I don't know. What do you guys think about what's happening?
I think Poggi looks unbeatable. However, he did have that day last year where he lost.
But he was also
7 minutes or something.
He did. He cracked on. He cracked on that one day, but he was also trying to take the lead for the whole week before. He didn't have the yellow jersey beforehand, and this year he has the yellow jersey with a 3-minute lead.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen again. I think he's got it sewn up, and he's by and large the fastest guy in the race by a long way.
I think we already saw his worst day, and that was the day that Jonas came back and kind of like got him. And I think that just things were off, and everybody's going to have a bad day, and it's really hard to have all perfect days in the Tour de France because of how hard it is.
He's such an incredible athlete, and
and what was it, 3 days ago, when everybody was saying, Tade had a good day, and then the next day they're like, oh, this one's perfect for Jonas.
Yeah.
This is gonna be where he's gonna be able to kind of come back and make his statement, and Tade's like, no.
Tade beat him again.
Crushed him. And
that climb
put another minute into it.
Where Jonas tried to get away, and there was still like 5 or 6 miles left on that climb, and they'd already been going super hard up there. And then Pogacar, I think they said he was doing like 6.9 watts per kilo for the last 5 miles, which was a 15, 20 minute effort
at hour 5 on the day. Yeah.
And he crushed a long-standing KOM on that climb.
4 minutes.
Well, he crushed it, and then the next 2 finishes after him crushed it as well.
The next 12.
The next 12.
The next 12. Yeah. It does make you question a little bit, but
yeah, I mean,
the bikes are better. The nutrition is definitely better. They're fueling themselves better. They're all wearing, they're not flapping around in the breeze. They're all wearing,
marginal gains all over the place. Is what you're saying. Yeah.
So all those things are changing, and the training has gotten more precise. So I want to believe, of course.
So do I.
I think the biggest change that's happened since those days where when did Pantani set that KOM? Like back in 94 or something.
Like that. Yeah.
So we're talking about 30 years, and it's not just the fitness and the equipment that's changed, it's the way the race has been directed. Like back in the day, you had pretty much free reign as the guy out on the road as to when you were going to go and what you were going to chase down and how fast and how hard you were going to go. Now that it's all being directed remotely from the team car, and they've got all the information of how how the race is unfolding, and so riders are responding to much more of a structured way of
it's just a
conducting the race.
Very analytical approach using science and like just understanding how they can completely optimize every last little ounce out of a bicycle race or a stage for that matter. I see what you're saying. And when was the last time you jumped on a bike that's 30 years old?
Yeah, it's not.
You get on that bike and you're going to ride. You're going to go, holy
30 years.
crap! There's a massive difference between bikes of today and back then. We just had a bike that came through the lab for consignment. It was a really beautiful bike, but it was a 1986 Italian alloy frame. It was, I can't remember the name. It starts with a G. It's I don't know. Anyway, long story short, took it for a little spin after doing like a tune-up before we were posting it. I'm like, yeah, there is a massive difference between this bike and a bike that would be comparable in this day and age. And then you like take into consideration like the super bikes that we have now.
Yeah.
It's a quantum leap. It's a massive difference, and the performance that's going to come out of those is going to be pretty substantial.
Well, just wearing a skin suit on a 4-hour stage is worth like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just wearing a skin suit and a more aerodynamic helmet.
Yep.
I mean,
different wheels, different tires, different gearing,
and a whole new science as far as training, science-based approach to your training that those guys back in the day did.
The fueling, the feeding, the nutrition, the carbohydrates they're taking in, it's unreal how much has changed it. Yeah.
Anyway, that was remarkable to see. I mean, we race, right? And I always thought if I could get to this 4 watts per kilo sort of FTP number, that I would be nice and competitive right around the Cat 3 Masters racing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so 4 watts per kilo was really hard to get to. Like I probably spent the peak of last season up around those numbers. And yet Poggy and the guys are doing almost double that. It's unfathomable. You just can't wrap your head around it.
Yeah, their FTP is around 6.5, and they're doing 7 or 7.5 watts per kilo for 20-minute sections on these races, which is unbelievable. Yeah.
That really makes me scratch my head sometimes. So as much as I love Pogača, as much as I want to think that they're perfectly clean, you have to wonder, like, all right, there is something going on there. And it could be like a completely illegal supplement or something that's not banned that they're using that could potentially be helping them through this. And if it's not against the rules, then you can't fault them too much for it. But there's a threshold, and there's, physiologists that have done all kinds of studies on this that say the maximum human potential is here. And I can't remember, I'd just be guessing, but we'll say like, 6.7. And if these guys are rolling around at like 6.8, 6.9, 7.0 watts per kilogram, that makes you wonder, like, all right, these guys, yes, they're superhuman. They're just incredible athletes, but what's going on? I mean, what's helping them get over that and be able to sustain that for that period of time?
Well, you could either take the cynical tack and say, well, it's pharmaceuticals, which I guess you might be implying that to a degree, but if it's not that, it's the science around the training. Because if you're just looking at watts per kilo or power output, then you can take out all the marginal gains from your bike, the technology, the skin suit. That doesn't contribute to those numbers. So.
Right.
What was it they were talking about yesterday? There was a little bit of a tagline or a storyline that was coming through yesterday where was it carbon monoxide in something or other that they were doing? They were using these like inhaler kind of things to determine like how their body was adapting to like altitude training. But somebody
missed that.
Okay. I don't want to get into that too deep because I just caught a headline and like, I got to come back to this. Haven't had a chance to do that. Maybe we can talk about that next week.
The other thing is, it's only like 7 or 8 guys that are really head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, you see the whole peloton working or going hard, but at the end of these stages with these big climbs, it's only
a handful
7 or 8 guys that can actually go at that pace.
Yeah.
Everybody else just drops off. And it's not just because they can't hang. Well, I mean, it's not because their job is done and they've shut down. It's they just can't hang on anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, you see guys like Matteo Jorgensen, who is trying to, protect Jonas, and he's at the front and doing his work. And then with 5Ks to go, I mean, they practically put a foot down and take a nap.
And fun watching Matteo be up there and watching him string out the field and people falling off. But as soon as the big kids, when they decide that it's time to go, it's like, all right, there's nothing I can do about that. I mean, even Remco has alluded to, like, yeah, they ride at a different level. There's no way that I can keep up with them. It's pretty amazing to watch.
It's pretty amazing.
Anyway,
so
good tour.
It's been exciting, super exciting. 3 days left. Tomorrow is huge.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's a high mountain stage, 2 HC category climbs and a category 1 climb tomorrow. And it finishes on the category 1 climb. So, and then Saturday is like 3 or 4 category 1 climbs. So 2 huge mountain stages tomorrow before the final time trial into Nice. So if Evenepoel wants to try to beat Jonas, because he's going to get him on the time trial.
by how much those the million-dollar question. So what's the time gap difference between those two guys right now? It's not massive, but it's still pretty decent.
Vingegaard is 3 minutes and 11 seconds behind Pogačar, and Evenepoel is 5 minutes and 9 seconds behind. So he's a minute 58.
Okay.
So he's got a 2-minute gap to Jonas. So he has to drop him some point tomorrow.
He needs to take out at least at a bare minimum a minute. And that's even a big ask for that time trial for him to be able to put
take
back
a whole minute on Vingegaard.
Yeah,
I don't think. I think he'll take 30 seconds
because that's not a flat time trial either. That's a hilly time trial.
It's a half climb and then half descent.
Yeah.
So from Monaco to Nice. So they start in Monaco, ride to Nice.
You have to think that Remco's probably one of the best time trialers. And I'm not a huge fan of him, but Vingegaard last year
champion and world champion in the time trial.
But Vingegaard's no slouch, but I mean, he's still he's not himself. He's not Vingegaard of last year. It seems like he's a little bit timid or a little bit reserved when it comes to the downhill stuff, and he's just not going to push it as hard on those. And Remco, I think, is willing to take those risks. It's a big ask. I mean, so he's going to have to be well under a minute time gap in order to put that time into him on the time trial. But these next two stages, he's going to have to put at least 30 seconds into him on each day, to make it even a reasonable,
a remote chance.
Exactly. Should be fun to watch.
That makes it exciting.
Yeah, and if Vingegaard wants to have any chance of putting in time back into Pogačar, he's got to go hard. He's got to do something these next two stages. If you don't do it now, it's not going to happen. So, do you go all out and do you chase and try and beat Tadej Pogačar, or do you try and protect your second place on the podium?
Are you looking forward or are you looking behind you?
Exactly.
I can't see people risking everything on a technical descent on a TT bike, if that's what it comes to, on that last day, because basically whether you're getting second or third, you're on the podium. If you're not going to win the race, second is third, who cares?
So, but for the next 2 days, for all of the climbing, if you're Jonas Vingegaard, are you having your eyes set on catching Tadej, or are you looking behind you to make sure that you keep your lead on Remco? Which one are you going to lean into more? I mean, I mean, it's been proven that he can't hang with Tadej right now. He can't. I mean, something extraordinary would have to happen to him, whether it be a crash or just a super bonk, and you know that the bonk thing's not going to happen again. He already had that happen once.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again. And if you're Tadej too, are you going to just ride defensively, or are you going to try and go crazy again and put even more time into him? They were questioning him yesterday, why did you attack? He's like, I don't even know why I attacked. And he gained 2 seconds on him.
2 seconds.
But
he just couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
He just couldn't. Yeah.
He lanced him.
That's right. Stupid.
So again, are you, if you're Vingegaard, are you protecting, or are you being the aggressor trying to get yourself up on the top of the?
Hard to say. If I was Vingegaard, I would probably see that boat has sailed as far as winning the Tour de France this year. So I would be looking at protecting my second spot.
I can't see any scenario where he's going to put time into him.
I don't think he cares whether he gets second or third, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm saying,
He's won it twice. Sure. So who cares if I get second or third? But I do think he would rather not have Evenepoel beat him.
Yeah.
And Evenepoel, oh my gosh, has actually made it through this whole...
Hats off to him.
He has done very well. He's hung in there. He's matured a little bit. So... It just could be super interesting to see what happens for these next couple days. So good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just got to tune in and watch. That's why they have the races, right?
Yeah,
the
next 2
foregone
days is
conclusion.
gonna be good.
Cool beans. All right. Anything else on that? Anything else, Champy?
I got nothing else, Champy, to talk about. Champ out.
Cool. All right. Let's jump into our topic for the week.
Although I am not champ, but Lance is beating Jake in the fantasy league. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's not over
Suck
yet.
it.
And I gave you a whole stage.
It's not over yet,
Yeah.
but you're right.
Yeah, I'm not going to beat you. All right, let's jump into our topic for the week. Hey guys, got a question for you. Are bike fits worth the cost?
Oh.
Okay, let's start with this.
What's the cost?
Well, bike fits, they're pretty stinking expensive. They're on the cheap side, $200.
$150 to $700-ish is the range. So
And-
usually they're around $250 for
Gotcha.
a decent bike fit.
Have you guys had bike fits done before in the past?
I have never had a bike fit. I've never had a proper bike fit.
Gotcha.
No.
Ian?
Yes, I went in twice. I think the first time I was there, I was having knee issues, or I can't remember now. I wanted to go see a physical therapist anyway about something that was bugging me, and this lady was really good as a bike fitter as well. So we made some adjustments to the bike. It did feel better. That was a good experience. And then a few months later, I went back in to get my TT bike fitted, which worked out well as well. So
Gotcha.
I would say I don't remember paying more than, I want to say, $200 tops, and I feel like it was well worth it in my case.
Okay.
But I don't feel like I need to go back again. It's done now. My bike fits well, and then if I have to dismantle my bike to go traveling, or if I get a new bike, I just set it up the way it was. I mark everything and
Yeah, Mark.
It's where it needs to be.
Yeah,
It
have
doesn't
all
need
of
to
your
change.
measurements too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty important. And there is one constant though. Like as we age and get older, and all of those things happen, our bike fit's probably going to have to change just a little bit because you're not quite as limber in most cases. But that's not to say that that's going to be the case for every single person. People that ride consistently throughout the years, and they ride year round, and they do a good job of doing the off the bike stuff to stay limber and to stay strengthened, and they're not getting injured. They're pretty capable, like yourself, of keeping the same bike fit.
Yeah, and when you're doing sort of even at our level, like 10, 12 hours a week,
Sure.
that's enough to you just get used to the way you sit on the bike. And I get on it now, and my bike's set up fairly aggressively, I guess. So it's a big, yeah, I'm pretty stretched out on it, and it just feels normal now. If I changed it to be more comfortable, it wouldn't be more comfortable. If I changed it to be less aggressive, I think I would do better in a super long rides. Like I would not want to do a 10, 12-hour ride like Seattle to Portland or something on the bike I have right now. But I just sort of, it's like a comfortable chair now. I just get on it and it feels the way it does, and it's just right.
Gotcha. What are some of the cons of a bike fit these days? I mean, the glaring thing's got to be the cost.
Cost is the one thing. The other con potentially is making expensive mistakes. Like I need a longer stem, or I need a shorter stem, and so you find and buy and install a shorter or longer stem and realize it wasn't helpful.
Yeah. And that can get to be really costly these days, because I mean, if you're just replacing a stem, you're probably not going to pay much more than say $200, maybe $300 if it's a full carbon stem, but you can get a decent stem, and it depends on what kind of bike you're riding too. If it's an integrated stem, it's going to be more expensive, but if it's just standard stem, you can get one $40, $50, $60, $80 or something like that, which isn't unreasonable. But if you're riding a bike that's got like a full like carbon integrated cockpit where the bars and the stem are all made out of one piece carbon fiber, those things are like, they're spendy. Like you could be paying upwards of $800 for that cockpit, and it's for a lot of people.
And that's a bar stem one piece combo.
And then you've got to pay to have that installed if you don't have the chops to do that yourself, and that can be probably as much as a couple $100 too, because then like you have to internally route your hydraulic cable lines. You've got to possibly pay for the bleeding of the brakes. You got to pay for the handlebars to be wrapped in, and that all takes time, and it costs money. So that could end up being close to $1,000 mistake if you get that wrong. So if you're wanting to go that direction, I could possibly see like, all right, if I'm going to spend that much money on that particular piece of equipment, maybe it behooves me to have somebody like help quantify that. But
the worst case scenario would be cutting your steering tube, right? And then figuring out you're way too low.
Oh, exactly.
But,
and that's a suggestion that I always make to people.
That's a whole new fork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a fork's going to cost you anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just
plus
for
installation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's different ways that you can do that. And these integrated cockpits and whatnot, you can stack still like some spacers on top of that and still compress the headset to keep everything kind of intact so that you can ride it in that position to verify like, yes, this is going to work for me. Or like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I didn't cut that, and I'm going to put it back to where it was, or maybe change it just a little bit and go from there. that's highly, highly recommended if you're looking to do that. Don't cut it before you go out and ride it. And yes, it's going to look ugly. Yes, you're going to have a little chimney sticking up there, and it's not going to be super like pretty and arrow and all that other stuff, but it's a hell of a lot better to do that and ride it for a few rides before having to go out and purchase a new Ford.
Right.
So any other cons that you can think of? I've got one more that I can throw out there. Bike fitters are not all the same. They're not all cut from the same cloth. Some of them are just coming from years of experience. Some of them are coming from experience gained from the interwebs. Some have education and degrees. Some of them are physical therapists. Some of them do have certifications, but there's not like at least not that I know of, there's not like a guiding certification course that all bike fitters go to. There's a couple out there that kind of will certify you in their own realm and their philosophies and things of that nature. And some of them are just kind of just doing it based off of like eyeball and stuff. And there's so many different varying variables in terms of like how they're going about this fitting process that sometimes I see inconsistencies. And sometimes people are kind of telling you stuff that don't make sense, and people will go out and ride and like, I had a $300 bike fit and I'm just not comfortable, or this doesn't feel right. And I'm like, well, what changes did you make? And then we'll, talk about those things and like, all right, well, when you had that particular stem, how did it feel? Well, it felt great. Well, why did you get a bike fit kind of a thing? Or why did you like change it? Or I don't know. Sometimes people feel like they want to go get a bike fit just to say that they went and got a bike fit. Don't necessarily need it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of a thing. So I don't know. I see inconsistencies in terms of like bike fitters out there, and it'd be nice to see a little bit more of like a overall governing standard. Thank you. That was being used so that everybody was kind of on the same page. That's just my 2 cents. So, and that's an expensive thing to throw money at. I mean, again, you said $150 for like, we'll call that more of like a quick fit. It's not like a lot of stuff that goes into it, all the way up to $700. Like, what am I getting for $700? Who's charging $700 and what do they give me, and how many times do I get to come back, and what does that entail? So
well, just the fact that somebody can charge $700 means that there's a market there. People are willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And we're already investing a lot in our cycling. It's not a cheap sport.
Yeah.
But I personally think it's worth it. And the reason is that you do adapt, that you feel comfortable on your own bike when you've been riding it for long enough. When you're putting in 10, 12, 15 hours a week sitting on that bike, it just feels normal.
Right.
And it's not until somebody rides alongside and says, dude, your saddle looks a little low.
Yeah.
And
your legs are too bent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, wow, has it always been like that? And so you could be comfortable but very inefficient.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and like the more forward you are, the more power you can put in the pedals, but you can't stay in that position for very long. So it depends on the length of time you're riding as well. But I mean, for me personally, I guess I just got fairly lucky with the first bike I bought, and I wasn't too far stretched out, and I got the seat height kind of right that after a while I realized, okay, this is actually a decent position for me.
Yeah.
And then you take measurements of those things and write them down so that every new bike I got, I was able to just kind of update it with that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think doing some kind of general bike fit with somebody, if you have no idea, where you're sitting on not your own bike, but like something that is very customizable so you can get those general measurements, could be helpful. But
yeah, it's super, you definitely, it's critical to get your seat height right and your seat setback right. The cockpit, the reach, I mean, that's kind of more of a...
Yeah, you can play with that a little bit.
You can play with that a little bit.
But having your seat at the right height and the right forward or aft position or tilt up or down, that's...
And I think it's worth having somebody, whether it's a professional bike fitter or a teammate or somebody, check you out, because it's not something that you notice, right?
Well, and then I still screwed that up at Oregon Trail. That one day my seat was a 1/4 inch low and it caused a saddle sore.
Yeah.
And it took me that whole day to figure out my seat was that low.
Yeah. Well, I think what you just talked about in terms of like people or teammates or friends or like, the community that you ride with, there's always going to be people in there that have had a ton of experience, whether it be, they've got maybe an education in that, or maybe they've had plenty of bike fits to know kind of what the ballpark is that you need to be in. That's kind of where I came from. Now, I had a little bit of an advantage in that I have a degree in kinesiology and like have a pretty good understanding of biomechanics. And then I, have been riding bikes for a long time. But when I first started riding into bikes and whatnot, you really, especially the road bike stuff, that for when I first started doing that, I had no freaking idea. So, my stack height was too high. My seat was too far back. The seat was angled incorrectly. And I was riding with a lot of people that had many, many, many years of experience. And there was even a couple people in there that had experience being fitters as well. And they start just throwing little tips and little pearls of wisdom at you. And then you slowly start to dial it in and like, okay, that does feel better. And as soon as I kind of figured everything out, I'm like, that all makes sense. And you start to like, look at the angles and look at like how you're able to generate power and what the length tension relationships were for the joints and making sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to get hurt, but you're optimizing your power. Like that's the process that I went through. I never have paid for a proper bike fit. And part of it's like, I've thought about it, but part of it's like, all right, I'm probably too cheap to do that. And the other part is like, I can figure this out. And I have tinkered with stuff and I have studied it. And I have a pretty good working knowledge of it. And I try and help people out because people helped me out. I want to pass that along. And I've also provided bike fits for people. I've probably done several dozen of them for a lot of people. And that's a service that we sometimes provide. I just haven't done it in a while because don't have any time anymore. But I love being able to help people with that stuff. And it's there is science that goes into it. There are measurements that need to be taken. I think though that bike fitters probably charge too much and maybe take a little bit too long, because I can usually get to that same conclusion a lot quicker and charge people a lot less money. Even though I know that I could probably milk it for as much as it's worth, but I don't know. That's just not who I am, I guess. But I usually give really good results. I've never had any complaints, and a lot of people have really thanked me up and down because it's helped them either get faster, be more comfortable, to alleviate pains that they're having. It's a bit of a process, but you can get it done pretty quickly and efficiently. And another thing is, gosh, like when I first started riding road bikes, I mean, YouTube was kind of a thing, but you couldn't really jump on YouTube and find out a ton of information about bike fits. But in this day and age, you can go almost get your own like YouTube certification at the University of YouTube on bike fitting. So there's crazy stuff there. And then there's apps and like programs that you can use where you can take picture or upload video of yourself, and then it will like walk you through the process of your bike fit. That's pretty amazing. And those are really affordable at $35, $40, $45 to get a bike fit. Granted, you're not having that human interaction. And if you've got some more, I don't know, complicated underlying problems, like let's say that you're developing knee pain, or you've got like some severe neck pain or something along those lines, or there's little things in there that maybe you do need to seek somebody who is a proper bike fitter to help you get those things sorted out.
Yeah, that's right. There's two facets to it, right? One is making adjustments to hopefully improve performance. Mm-hmm. So you could ride, let's say in a 4-hour road race with your saddle half a centimeter too low, and it probably wouldn't make that big of an impact on your performance on the day. But the second thing is adjusting your bike right for injury prevention.
Correct.
or making corrections to your bike for some chronic thing that's going on with your body. And I think in that's far more important. So especially if your bike fitter is also a physical therapist that understands, like yourself, understands the biomechanics, understands all of that stuff, it's well worth it to, with all the hours and hours you put in on the bike, get it set up once correctly, right? Mm-hmm. And then after you've ridden that for 6 months and it's working out, then you don't need to do it again. But that's the big thing, is injury prevention, I think. Because it basically it's all about repetitive strain injuries. You do that motion on your bike so over and over and over again.
I think one of the bigger things that a bike fitter can help out with is just making sure that your 3 touch points are completely dialed in, and making sure that your cleat position is proper. Mm-hmm. Taking a look at your like if you're toed in or toed out, or like how much knee whip you're getting, and things of that nature, and trying to correct those issues. That's the first thing. The second thing is the saddle. I can't tell you how many people I've seen riding saddles just like, oh my gosh, how do you still have anything down in that region? You see somebody, they get off their bike and you look at it and like, dude, that person's nose is going up like 6 degrees. Like how are you surviving? Or some people that have it like way sloped down. Like how are you not falling or sliding into your top tube because you've got it so towed down? And then there's a lot of people that, their cockpit or like where their hands are touching is like, well, yeah, I'm looking at you and you're complaining that your neck hurts or your hands are going numb all of the time and you can't feel your shifters. And you start to look at the position that they've got going on and you just can't help but say, yeah, we need to talk. Let's work on that. Yeah. And then there's some people that are highly talented, super fast people, and they're riding and they want to be fast. And I get it. Maybe they purchased the wrong bike because they didn't know better, but they're buying like an endurance bike with a really high head tube. And then they've got the full stack in there. I'm like, you've just turned yourself into a big giant sail. Let's talk about how we can try and optimize that as best as possible. And if, next time you go the route of purchasing a new bike, let's talk about some of the checkpoints that you want to kind of take a look at to get yourself in a little bit more of an aerodynamic position. There's a couple people, like even on our team, like you watch them ride, I'm like, oh my gosh, if that person only knew that and they have the full capacity to drop themselves down 15, 20, 30 millimeters, that's a lot. Yeah. They would be so much faster. And
so saddle height is critical, getting and saddle angle and all of that. So you've got the mechanics of the pedaling right. And then when it comes to the cockpit, it's a matter of preference, like how going low is more efficient. If you're going to do a lot of racing, you're able to get down and put more power out with just somehow with the leverage from a lower handlebar, and you get more aerodynamic. But that's once you get your saddle sorted out, it's basically adapting your body to a lower front end, I guess, for performance oriented cycling like racing. But I see a lot of people that have been cycling for years and then wanted to get into racing, and you look at them pedaling, they're so upright with the seat at the same height or even lower than the handlebars. And I think, how can you get any power out of that? So,
well, I got a question for you then. You coach quite a few athletes and you've been doing this for a while now. Do you ever take a look at you don't get to ride with everybody all of the time, but is that part of your intake assessment is like, hey, let me get a picture of you riding on your bike and maybe like you can get like a side profile shot and like a headshot just to kind of see like the position that they're in.
It's hard to, because until you're actually seeing somebody ride, it's hard. I don't know if you can really. Well, what if they were just from a picture? But the guys that have been out with riding, some of my clients, I have said, can you get a little bit lower at the front, or can you work towards a more aggressive riding position if you're going to be competitive? That
was another key word that you just said. Can you work towards it as opposed to like, hey, let's take you and drop you, slam you down like 20, 30 centimeters. That you just don't do that. It's not something where you can make that big quantum leap because you're going to be super uncomfortable because you've acclimated to that position. So it's a process, and it depends on how much experience you have and how youthful you are and how much stability you have and your core strength and all those other things. And there are some people that you could probably take them from X to Z or whatever pretty quickly, but a lot of people need a lot more than just from here to here. There's going to be some incremental steps that you needed to take, and you ride for this position for 10 hours, and then we're going to come down a couple millimeters, do it again and again, rinse and repeat until you get to that position and you're fully comfortable. So
and even more critical, like how cool do you want to be? Because a slammed stem, it's you got to look the part.
It used to be very cool. There's a big difference too between the 5% of cyclists who race and the 95% who are recreational or who are just riding.
Sure,
and the fit might be different for one of those. If you have neck issues or back issues, you might have a straight upright position or a different type of handlebar. And, so obviously we're racers. The three of us race bikes. So we're talking about speed and power, positions for racing.
Yeah. But how many people do you know just don't care about how fast they go? I mean, they all want to be able to maintain a certain level of speed. I mean, you don't want to be doing a ride that, let's say you ride 20 miles just for sake of an easy number. And if you're able to ride at 20 miles an hour, you can get that done in an hour versus like, all right, well, I can do that, but because of the position I'm in, I'm only able to ride 10 miles an hour. Okay, these are all just bad numbers, but just for sake of argument, I mean, it's going to take you twice as long to be able to do that.
Right.
So I can't think of too many people that don't want to optimize like their speed and their comfort. And those are going to be relationships that are going to change based on what you're doing. But for all intents and purposes, people are going to buy a specific bike for the kind of riding that they like to do. And they're going to want to optimize that position so that they can be as quick as they possibly can be. I mean, there's very few cyclists out there that I can think of and say, oh yeah, I don't mind being slower, or yeah, I want to go slower. I don't care. I mean, everybody for the most part is like, all right, I want to be able to go as fast as I can. I don't want to race, but I want to be able to hang with the group. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to chase a Strava segment. There's a lot of people that don't race that still want that, that advantage.
That's a good point.
But there's only one place to set your saddle height correctly.
That's true.
But everything else with the handlebars, with the cockpit, is going to be a compromise at the end of the day.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be slammed to race and sprint, but you want to be more upright for those long endurance rides. So it's going to be a compromise.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun when you can get on a bike and you feel that on a bike that you've been riding for a while. Like, I need to be able to drop this down. That's kind of a fun thing. I don't know if too many people have that thought, but that's something that I've been noticing of late. Like, while I was hurt, while I was dealing with this whole hip thing, I was doing quite a bit of strength training, and I was working on trying to get my shoulder more optimized and balanced, and I'm working on my core. All things that I probably need to get back into doing more consistently, but I've still been doing it very consistently for probably about the last 10 months. Now that I get back on my gravel bike, I'm noticing I feel like I'm way too up high. I feel like I need to get down lower. I need to be a little bit more aggressive. And before, I was perfectly content with that position because I'm battling a shoulder that wasn't happy, and I'm battling this hip issue. And like, as everything kind of comes together, I'm like, all right, it's time.
Yeah.
And I know I talked about this a while ago about selling all my bikes. I really do need to sell all of my bikes because I did actually kind of order some stuff, and I am ready for a gravel bike. And I think my next gravel bike's not going to be more of an adventure-based one for exploring. It's going to be a little bit more racy. So I do have a MOG frame that's kind of earmarked for me, but I'm going to take a look at a few different options out there and find something that's going to be a little bit closer to the geometry of my road bike, just so that I can have something that's a little bit faster so that I can keep up on our Tuesday night gravel rides. But yeah, it is a neat thing when you realize, like, like, based on the fit that I've been using, and you start to feel the physiological adaptations, and you know that, I can get more aggressive with this. That's a good feeling, and I want to be able to get there. Fun. Going back to the question, are bike fits worth the cost? My answer to that depends.
Yeah.
I can't give you a definitive answer. And it just depends on who you are and like what your relationship is to the sport. It depends on your financial means and your wherewithal. It depends on how much you want to be self-taught, and how much you want to truly learn, and how much you're willing to tinker with it. And
it depends on the experience of the bike fitter and that engagement with that business. We know what it's like to walk out of a store or walk out from a service that you've gotten and feel satisfied, feel like I got my money's worth out of that. I'm glad I did that. But that's going to be different from bike fitter to bike fitter, just like it is with every other retail experience. So I'm sure if you get a good quality bike fit and it's a reasonable price, you're going to walk out of there satisfied and glad you did it. Sure. In my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Lance?
I've never had one, so no, not worth it.
Not something you're willing to spend the money on either.
I don't see, for me personally, how it would change.
Someone would have to walk up to you and say, I can make you 10% faster.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, you cut my attention. But like, for you've got it pretty honed in. And I look at you on the bike, I'm like, I don't see anything that I would really change. You've got everything pretty optimized for you, and you're able to do good work on the bike. And like, I don't see much that I could change there. So yeah, I kind of agree with you. But I mean, maybe if you sustain some sort of an injury or you wanted to try and get even faster, or all of a sudden you want to get back into triathlon and get on a TT bike and maybe you need some help there.
Well, that's a good point. So that particular niche of cycling, that small niche where people go out on time trial bikes, I would argue in every case in that sense that you should get a bike fit for your time trial bike. Or
totally
for
agree.
If you do a longer triathlons,
it's more
always, yeah.
Your position has a lot to do with wind resistance as well. And so becoming the most, not just efficient, but the least wind resistance that you can create. And that idea has changed drastically in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, just like our local pros that we know, like Evan and Josh, those guys are both getting pretty regular bike fits, and it's really more about the aerodynamics and figuring out how do we optimize and cheat the wind as much as possible. And if you have a time trial bike, you're racing. How many people do you know that that's their mainstay, that they just ride a TT bike?
If you're serious enough, I mean, talk about spending money on a bike fit. You going to the wind tunnel, that's big money.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's big money.
It can make a huge difference
for sure. And that's where you got me. Like I'm like, how much does that cost? Because really you can see, like, you can quantify like the changes that you're making. It's not like a subjective thing where, I think that if we get you in this position, it'll feel better and it should make you a little bit faster. Like, well, now if we're in the wind tunnel, let's make that change and see what it does. And like, all right, well, if I don't feel comfortable, but I know that it's going to make me 7% more aerodynamic, then what do I need to do to work towards that? And that would be super
Screw the bike fit. Go straight for the wind tunnel. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Michael Myers, our good friend Michael Myers, went down to San Diego and he jumped in the wind tunnels, and he said that was one of the most incredible experiences that he's ever had. And he's got like video and pictures, and it was really quite the experience, and he learned quite a bit, which was kind of neat. And what was nice about that too is he was able to come back and share some information with us. I'm like, that's good insight. That's good info to have. So yeah. But for a bike fitter though, if you have no clue, if you're like new to the sport, I don't think you need to pay for a $400 or $500 bike fit. If you can get like more of like a quick fit, or get somebody that's going to help you, get your cleats right, help you pick the right saddle, because that's part of a bike fit too. Saddles can be wildly comfortable and they can be wildly uncomfortable. And that's one of those things. If you get that wrong, I mean, Lance, how bad was saddle sore times?
Yeah, it was not. It was unhappy times. Yeah.
We're all shaped a little bit differently down there, and we all have sits bones in different spots. And then if you get the wrong saddle, it's going to cause a very poor experience, and you're probably going to hate cycling. But if you get it just right, like you can go sit on the bike for 8, 10, 12 hours. Not that we do that all the time. And really, you don't think about it. Like, that's one of those things that you should not think about. It should never be like, oh my God, my butt hurts kind of a thing. So make that right, and make it, find the right one. And having somebody that can help you with that can be like a big thing. And, if you're going out and spending money on, bar tape that's 4.6 millimeters thick, and you're getting these gloves with these big thick gel pads on it because you're trying to keep your wrist from going numb, don't put Band-Aids on things. If you've got that issue going on, there's something wrong with your fit, and that's where you're going to need to get some help. If your knees are starting to, develop pain while you're pedaling, something's going on. Your seat could be too high, or you could have your cleat
position is
wrong. And if you're getting hot spots on your feet, I mean, there's a lot of little things like that will pop up and say, hey, this is not right. And if it's hurting, or if your body's talking back to you, chances are you got something wrong. So, and if you're not quite sure how to fit that or figure that out, like, you can go to the interwebs and kind of do your own research. And if you can solve it that way, great. But that might be somewhere where you want to like invest a few bucks to make the sport feel more comfortable, because riding bikes should not hurt unless you're chasing KOMs and racing and suffering. So
what? Should not hurt.
Yeah.
I'm doing something wrong.
You are.
All right. Well, there's some apps out there too. Have you guys ever checked out any of the apps? I can't remember the one off the top of my name.
I have not.
No, there are some good apps out there that I think that you might want to consider checking out if you're looking for a bike fit. It's a low cost of entry, so there could be some benefit there. So, all right. Anything else on that front?
Nope.
Bike fits, kind of worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
Not for me. All right, let's jump into, I guess, one last thing. We're just kind of plowing through this today.
Let's do it.
That's it. Who wants to go first, Lance? Do you want to start us off on one last thing?
Sure. One last thing for me. I am probably going to do my one and only crit of the year. Now I might do more than one, but there is a criterium race this Sunday. If Ian and I can convince each other to go, we might go try to help each other out and do something. So I'm going to do that. And then back to Monday night short track. I don't have anything else other than I'm going to smoke Jake in the Fantasy Tour de France League.
Funny. Ian is squirming over here in his seat a little bit because I think the one last thing caught up on him a little bit, and he's maybe got something. I don't know. What
Lance
you got?
freaking Hepler took my one last thing.
Yes.
I was going to... I, too, am hoping to do the Red R Criterium down there at Swan Island in Portland this Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday morning. So it's been a while since I've raced my bike. I'm kind of losing my mojo a little bit on it. We've had a couple of cancellations due to the weather, but yeah, crits are coming around. Red R Criterium's coming around. We should be back at PIR hopefully this coming Tuesday, road version, which is good. And then we have the Masters Criterium Championships race in Bend in early August 10th. I got to be there to defend my title. It's my chance to wear my jersey and be a crit racer for a day.
Sure.
Hero.
Are you going to wear the Orbit jersey to that and get free registration? Isn't that how that works? We talked about that a little bit last week. You weren't here, though, with Scott. But isn't that the case, Lance, that if you won the state championship last year, if you wear it to the race for the next year, you get free registration?
That's just with Scott.
Was it just with Scott?
It's just with Scott.
I thought that was something that all the promoters were going to do. No, just Scott, huh?
It's just Scott.
Crazy Scott. So,
yeah.
Real quick question for you. If you were coaching somebody that was still wanting to be competitive and still kind of have their foot in the water, but they're coming back to you and saying, my mojo's not there. What do you recommend to them to break out of that, to get their mojo back and get that full head of steam so that they're like fully back on with like the bike racing stuff? Or do you encourage them to, hey, maybe it's time to press pause for a little while and just go ride your bike and have fun and do some other things and then come back to it once that burning desire is back? I
got a couple of athletes that I feel like are just hanging on by a thread that are about to quit, and it's understandable. You know, those guys have been training hard since November of last year or before, and it's quite a long race season, right? So it's hard for me to say because I'm starting to feel that way myself as well. Like, I'm ready to hang it up for a few weeks. But I would just say, look on the calendar and find an event, something that motivates you, something that fires you up. And just hang in a while longer. You know, this is coming up on some of the best days to be out on a bike and riding. And, we were training hard and getting out in all kinds of weather back in February, March of this year. And now it's time. It's fun time. It's great to be out. But I don't know. Hang in there. The season's not done yet.
Yeah. Lance, you kind of dealt with a little bit. I mean, were you burned out or were you just like fatigued?
Fatigued.
Yeah.
I needed a break because I'd been going since November.
Gotcha.
So I went from November to June.
Did you ever feel any burnout, or have you felt burnout in the last year or two or three?
Oh, yeah. No, I felt the burnout.
How do you generally combat that?
I take a week and just don't think about bikes, or I try not to. So that's the best way that I kind of deal with it. Sometimes it's more than a week. Sometimes you need a month to step away. And then I feel like invigorated. But for me, cross is always coming. And so I know that I need to try to hype back up for that.
I mean, there's a whole subgroup of cyclists that is their only competitive venture of the year. This
just cyclocross.
Cyclocross.
Yeah.
Right. So for a lot of guys, now is the time. Now is the time to get going on it. You know, you've been just riding recreationally basically for all
time
year, and
start sharpening the tools up.
Now it's time to sharpen the tools up.
But it's hard, and I've been there before, where you get burned out. Like you go like crazy hard in the off season, like training and trying to get yourself sharpened up. And back in the day when we used to have like 8, 10, 12 road races, like every single weekend you're off and you're just turning yourself inside out week after week after week. And then you come off of that and then all of a sudden short track starts and, or you sprinkle in a mountain bike race, or now it's like you throw a bunch of big gravel races in there. And, you know, then it's like you get to the cyclocross season, you're like, oh, how am I going to do this every single weekend? Like you're fatigued, but you're also kind of burned out a little bit. And I'm just curious, like, what is your, like, all right, this is my elixir. This is how I get my mojo back. And sometimes it's like, just make yourself go out there when you're immersed in it and you're out there with your friends and you're having fun. Like that in itself is enough of a way to kind of boost that up. But there's sometimes you're like, I'm just burned out. I don't want to do this.
And I think it's okay at some point to just say, I'm going to take a month off now. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm just going to
some active recovery. Just be active, but
and,
like just
and split the year up. You know, you're not a professional. You don't even professional athletes going to take 3 or 4 weeks off, completely off the bike. Do it. You know, if that's what it comes to, I would say hang in for another 5 or 6 weeks. There's still some racing to come, but after that, like I do, like October time, I'm done for a few weeks.
Or ride in a new location.
Yeah,
that's always motivational.
Yeah.
No,
there you go. Cool. Or ride with some new people too.
Yeah.
Do something different. All right, my one last thing. It's gonna be 2 things. First is we had Scott in last week from Zone 5 Promotions. They've got their basically their full weekend coming up of the short track and the XC races on the 27th and 8th, or 26th and 7th.
27th is short track and 28th is the cross country mountain bike race.
They are in full throes of like getting everything prepped and ready to go. This podcast is going to come out the weekend or the week before the last weekend of building. So I think it's on Sunday the 21st, if I'm not mistaken.
Sunday the 21st, they need volunteers.
As many as they can possibly get out there. He's got a lot of stuff that he still wants to get done. If you are available to come out on July 21st, by all means, just head on out to Washougal. I don't believe that there's certain time criteria or like you don't have to be out there for a certain amount of time, but
they're there from 9 to 6 p.m.
From 9 to 6.
That's the plan at this point.
Gotcha. And then I believe you can take your bike out there with you, maybe pre-ride the course.
Yes, you can.
I think that's the only thing that's got Lance's eyes perked up or like focused on possibly going out to help.
My plan is to race the crit with Ian and then drive straight to the venue and then help with what I can with the course prep and then hopefully do a lap.
Gotcha. So if you can help out with that, that's fantastic. I do believe they have a sign-up Genius where you can actually sign up for helping out during the course of the week. And once that comes through, we'll try and post that up on our social media if you want to go out there and help if you're local. That'd be kind of cool. And then the races of the following weekend. Also the following weekend, and this is in addition to the other thing, we've got the Vancouver Bicycle Clubs, their ride around Clark County. That is going to be on the 27th, which is Saturday, correct?
Yep.
And they've got varying routes, but that's something we've done a bunch of times. You're obviously not going to do it because you're going to be racing bikes, but if you're local and you want to do like a metric century or a full century or some shorter rides, that's going to be another great thing to do. It's always a fun time. They've got good rest stops set up throughout it. And
supported rides, so you don't have to carry all your stuff. It's kind of nice to do that.
It is, and there's a bunch of people that will be out there riding on the course. It's a lot of fun. We've done that before in years past and kind of go out there and kind of maybe treat it a little bit like a race.
We've
after
done that once or 12 times. I think we've done
but
that.
if you're here local and you're not going to be out racing the Zone 5 stuff, consider putting that on your calendar. The last thing, and we posted this up last week and talked about it last week, is the GoFundMe for Ken O'Day. And as we mentioned before, Ken was hit by a car on the 4th of July that was pretty significant, pretty severe, and he's got a long journey ahead of him. There are a ton of people that have contributed to that, and I just wanted to say a big thank you. It's blown my mind. It's I think it's over $20,000, almost $21,000 that have been contributed, which is going to go a long way to helping him through the rehab process. He has been moved out of ICU. He is in more of a in transitioning into more of like a skilled nursing kind of a situation where they're kind of helping him with some basic occupational therapy. And I don't know what the process is for him being able to walk again because he was pretty maimed. But he will walk again, but we'll start helping make strides. But anyway, just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody that helped out with that. So good times. Not good times, but good stuff. It's good stuff that people helped out and chipped in. Cool. All right. Anything else, boys?
That's it.
Cool.
That's it.
All right.
Good.
We will be back next week with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.
Jij bent een klootzak.